everyone, and welcome to the CPA Moms podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Kehl. I'm the brand ambassador of CPA Moms, and today I am beyond excited to introduce a powerhouse guest whose career journey is nothing short of inspiring. Lindsey Head is the founder of Pulse Business Group and an award-winning CFO who helped scale a boutique PR agency from $750K to over $23 million in revenue, expanding globally and leading an international acquisition along the way. Wow. She's also the co-founder of Curls Poppin', holds her real estate license, and somehow still finds time to serve on leadership boards and finance committees across San Diego's startup ecosystem, and also has kids. She's been honored as San Diego Business Journal CFO of the Year and featured on the cover of Vision magazine. Because apparently when Lindsey steps into a room, growth and strategy just follow her. So Lindsey, I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm so honored to be here and really excited for our conversation.
Well,
And
can
thank you
you
for that intro.
Oh, yes.
So sweet.
It speaks for itself. Like I didn't make it up, right? This was what you did.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear how you got into accounting.
Yeah, so a little bit about my journey. I came out of college and I was lucky enough to have a mentor through college and through my life. And her and her husband started a money management firm. So I got the opportunity to work with them to help launch a money management firm where we were managing hedge funds. And I got to be behind the scenes, setting up and running the business, which included managing all the accounting. And as you know, when you're working in a business, you sure learn exactly how to do it. And so you figure it out. And that was my introduction into accounting. So I thought throughout my life and my career at school, I would go into computer programming and develop software. And then I realized that I didn't really want to be doing that. So I found a really big interest in business. And from there, I followed those who I was lucky enough to meet in my life into a path to help them launch a business, and immediately got into the accounting of business and realizing how important it was and how much it allowed for the business to work and flow, which was right up my alley and something I wanted to be part of.
Interesting. That's quite a shift there. And I will say, like, hedge fund just in itself, like, I don't know, scares me a little bit. So you just saying that, I was like, oh, what? Like you started off with a bang in the
You're,
county.
you know what? It was pretty crazy because I didn't know I said, what is a hedge fund? And so, of course, coming out of college, I did my research and was learning about it and learned everything I could leading up to it, and learning that it's, just a pooled investment vehicle, just like a mutual fund, but geared towards the high net worth individuals and had different, levels of investment requirements. And from there, I learned so much about that. And I wasn't managing the money, trading and things like that, but I was running the operations of the business behind the scenes, which is where I just found an interest in accounting in general. And then after that experience, I went and worked for a hedge fund administrator doing hedge fund accounting specifically. So it was really, really more technical accounting because we had to account for the really tough investment instruments and like how you do that and how do you provide investors with their fund statements and all of those things. That was a really interesting experience as well, but
Yeah,
very detailed.
for sure. Yeah. And what a great thing to get into. Cause I think most accountants probably just like I did, like hedge funds, what? And so like to get introduced that just leads to like the whole financial side too. And that's just really great information and knowledge to have right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So can you speak to a little bit just as far as who you relied on and mentors at the beginning there that really helped you through that?
Yeah, so my mentor who I spoke about, I met her when I was 19 years old. I was so lucky to meet her when was in college. I got an opportunity to babysit for their family. That's how I kind of got introduced. And I didn't have a full-time job in college. I played softball, I worked on campus and went to school full time, but I didn't have a real job, is how I would phrase it. And so I started helping out their family, just supporting their family with whatever they needed in college. But that mentor has played such an important role in my life. She was a corporate attorney by trade, so had the legal knowledge, about 20 years older than me. And so she was just wonderful in teaching me and sharing her experiences with business and accounting. And I learned so much from her, just from like a legal standpoint, business standpoint. And I did rely on her a lot. And I think we worked so well together in going into that business. And it was just fun. And so going through life in that career into my next career doing the hedge fund accounting, she was always kind of a guiding light for me in business. And I just was really, really lucky to have that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I said, like, we talk a lot here at CPA Moms about industry and accounting and just professional careers in general, and how sometimes it's difficult to find
Yeah.
those women that will pull you with them
Yeah.
along the way. So it's really cool that you had that from the very beginning. And so, can you speak to like along in your journey? Because I assume that probably helped you too, having that mentor from a very early stage of your career to learn how to advocate for yourself in the workplace. So, can you just speak to that
Yeah.
and how that's helped you along your journey?
Yes, I love that question. And I'm such a believer in just helping women. I like helping each other, and I want all like women around me to thrive. I'm a mom, I'm a sister. It's like I am a daughter, obviously, and I want to help other fellow women business owners thrive. And that's always been my thing. If I found an opportunity to support and help, it's always been something that just draws me naturally. And it's like for nothing else except for just helping other people win and helping other people realize their dreams in business. So back to your question. How did that help kind of steer the way? Was that the question? I'm so sorry, Nicole.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's fine. How did it help teach you how to advocate for yourself?
such a good question. Having a mentor, gosh, there was one very specific uh guiding words or sentence that I remember my mentor saying to me at one point when there was a challenging time in my career. And she said, if you were a mom, and I wasn't yet, she goes, what would you tell your daughter to do?
Mm.
And I said, wow. And she said, or anyone else that you were guiding through a hard time. And I'm like, that was so eye-opening for me because whatever it was, it put me in the position to say, gosh, I would tell her to go for it, right? I would tell her to go for what she deserves or ask for what she deserves. And early on, like, you're timid. I was timid to do that. And I think learning that along the way, you have to find your journey. But I also realized that she taught me that. And it was such a very powerful statement that once in a while I'd be in a position and say, what would I tell my daughter to do? Now I have 4 boys, which is so funny. But what would I tell them to do? Right? I would tell them the same thing, to go for it. You only have one life. You have a chance to, make your dreams come true, or a chance to go for that promotion or whatever it may be. I would tell them that. And so I try to put myself in that position even today to say, how would I stand up and be that person for them?
I love that. I love that. Because we talk often here too about, and we just did a podcast about this not too long ago about it seems like professional women, but I think especially in accounting, like we just stopped dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And we just were driving the car, and we get in the car right after college and someone told us this is where you want to go, like this, when you've reached here, this means you've made it, whether it's the corporate accounting track, so then up to CFO, or it's the public accounting track and up to partner. And it's just like, okay, we're just driving, and we just stop
Mm-hmm.
dreaming and just kind of were going along in the car driving. But then a lot of time when women get there and then they're like, oh,
Yeah.
whoa, how to get here? I don't even like it here.
Right?
This is awful. I don't want to be
Yes.
here. Was
Yep.
there ever a time in your journey that you kind of realized you're just driving the car And just because someone told you to go that way, and then you were like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is what I want.
Yes, definitely. When I was doing the really technical accounting with the hedge fund administration firm, it was a Deutsche Bank. I thought to myself, I was there for a couple of years, and I said, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is it. There's more to it for me. So, yes, I felt like I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm going through the motions. And then there was a day when I was said, I don't think this is for me in the big picture, the big scheme of things. And I was lucky enough to be introduced to yet another person, right? You have to follow the yeses or say yes to those introductions, or when you meet people or someone brings an opportunity to you. I'm probably known for that. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that because I'm a believer in life experiences, and it was kind of around that time when I realized I don't think this is where I want to be for the long haul. I mean, you could have gone through the motions. I could have stayed there, I'm sure, and rose up in the ranks and led a team and things, but I knew it wasn't for me. And at that time, I met an investor who was an investor up in some companies in Seattle. And he says, I need a you at one of these companies. And I said, a me? He says, someone who understands business and accounting, but is good with people. He said a couple things. And I said, okay, that require me to move? And he said, well, yeah, probably. He said, but I want you to look at these companies and if there's an opportunity, I'll be able to make an introduction. I can't guarantee anything, but I think you would thrive at one of these companies. And I was a yes, right? I said, okay, I'm young, I've got nothing, no kids, no ties right now. And I was a yes. But there was a point where I said, I need to be out of what I'm doing on the day to day. This wasn't for me. And I kind of listened for what was next.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important sometimes just to be that yes person that just, that's how you learn, especially when you're young, that's how you learn what you want and what you like and what you don't like, and just being able to, I guess, move with the tide, if you
Yes.
will.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, do you have any advice that you would give for women who feel stuck or have, just kind of in that point where they're like, I'm not sure if this is right, if this is the right spot for me?
I do. I feel, my biggest thing is learning, never ending learning. So if anybody feels like they're in that position, I say go learn something new.
Hmm.
Go follow something that is kind of like in your ear about like what could I learn about that? What is it about AI? Is it about a new technology? Is this like, there's certifications everywhere. And I feel like it's like information is so much at our fingertips now. So I think the first thing I would say is find out what's interesting and where do you go just learn about it and keep learning. And it's going to lead to something. Join a group, join a LinkedIn group, reach out to somebody on LinkedIn who's inspiring to you and ask for an informational interview. Um, I'm a big believer in that. Like just make connections and explain why. Like, why are you doing this? Because I'm really interested. I really want to know about something different than what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Yeah, I like that. Have you ever experienced burnout?
Yes. Fast answer.
Haven't we
Yes.
all?
Oh my
Right?
gosh, haven't we all? It's so funny. Yes, absolutely. Burnout's very real. And I find that sometimes being in the cycle of accounting, if that makes sense, or this just the ongoing repetitiveness, I find can burn me out sometimes because I've got both sides of my brain working. I think the analytical side and the creativity. And for me, when I'm just kind of going through the motions, I do tend to have like really low energy and I've experienced burnout. And it's really hard to get through that.
It is very hard to get through that. So, what have you found that does help you recalibrate when you've kind of reached that point?
It's kind of similar to the guy go learn something new. I really get pulled towards naturally doing other things. I think I don't know if that makes sense. Something that I find energy in. I go, and it sounds crazy if it's like the workouts or if it's like learning something else or helping my husband with a business or helping somebody else with like a business idea, something that's exciting. That's not what I'm doing. I really just like get pulled towards that. I don't know. Does that make sense? A bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for everyone. It sounds like for you, that excitement of something new just kind of pulls you out. So burnout for you probably comes from doing too much of the same thing over and
Mm.
over. And
Yeah.
so you like that new adventure.
You're so right. I think it's the variety that it gets me, energizes me, and I think that's just built into my nature. So I do naturally kind of default to finding something exciting to do or work on or do something. So very different. I find out when I'm burnt out, I find that I'm not as connected with people in my life. And so I kind of go into this, is it like just kind of go into my shell and go through the motions, and then I realize my closest friends realize like, oh, I haven't heard from her in a while. And that's a really telling time, moment of me realizing, oh gosh, I'm kind of in that mode. So it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
So speaking of new ventures,
Yeah.
you launched a fractional CFO company, Pulse Business Group.
Yeah.
So if you could tell me a little bit about, what led you to that and why fractional CFO?
Yeah, so I've been a CFO for a fast-growing PR and social media agency, which was such a proud role that I held. I did everything from HR, operations, legal, tech, and financial modeling for that company, helping them scale and grow. And it was just a phenomenal experience, every bit of that experience. And then during 2019, maybe it was because I had my two babies at that time, and I was coming to the revelation of, what am I going to create as a legacy for my family?
Mm.
Because, I was playing a big role, and I loved everything about it, and the day to day was amazing. And then there was parts of me that said, where is this going for me, my family, kind of in the future? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, it's like, well, maybe it's time for me to explore that and build something for my life and my family. And it was a really tough decision, but I think it was just at the core of me. Like my talking to my husband, he's like, I think that it's telling you it's time. And I had a big calling for also financial education. And during 2019, we all know what happened the next year was 2020 and COVID. So 2019, I thought this is the time. We're going to go out, and I was going to partner with my mentor, and we were going to launch a financial education business. And it was like a great plan, and we started the inner workings, and we're going to do this. I was like craving something new and exciting, and so we really wanted to move to doing that together. But she was a distance away, so we weren't like working hand in hand together. And I made the decision to leave that role and start something of my own, fractional CFO consulting. And I was going to do the financial education also, if that makes sense. It was this next journey in my life. And what happened over those next few months, come March 2020, which was going to be the transitional time for me during that with that role, everything came crashing down. And the agency I worked with really needed a lot of support, and they said, please stay as a consultant with us. That was an incredible thing. And I felt very tied to them no matter what. I would love to have this, connection forever if I could as a consultant to them or advisor for them. And I started getting inquiries from other business owners who needed help. And my default is like really wanting to help people. And if I see somebody who just like, how can I support you in your dream or get you through a tough time? I naturally kind of, lean towards them. And so that was what was happening at that time. And that was when my business grew, where referrals were happening. People needed help with the PPP loans. People needed help with what do I do now? How do I make decisions through this time? And that's where I accumulated a great handful of clients that are still clients to this day. So it was during that time that took off, that I started saying, well, this is something here. Everybody needs a little bit of this in their business, yet they're not at a place to have a full-time CFO. And I felt I could bring that problem solving and help them make sense of their numbers in probably one of the most challenging times of our economy.
Yeah, I think that is a really big need for entrepreneurs for sure.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's a huge shift from going from being an employee to then launching and being an entrepreneur yourself.
yeah,
And I know that there's a lot of learning curves that happen, and you learn a lot about yourself. There's a lot of mindset shifts that need to happen in that journey as well.
Yeah.
What would you say was one of your biggest challenges from making that shift?
The biggest thing I think was my own boundaries because I found myself working all the time. And I know as entrepreneurs, we all are guilty of that. And at times, even to this day, right? So you try to figure out how not to do that. So setting boundaries, like, boundaries for me are like if it's on my calendar, it's happening. And if it's not, it's probably doesn't exist. So I
Yeah,
became very, very reliant on my calendar for scheduling and making things have it make sense. But it also allowed me to kind of set up a schedule that worked for me as a growing entrepreneur and to help the people that needed help. The clients where I was like, okay, this is the schedule and doing the best I could. Knowing that if they called me, I would also be available, of course. But you know how it is. It's like if you're available to everybody, they all want something at the same time.
yeah,
And it's really hard. And I think being an entrepreneur, especially during that time, everybody did need something and I wanted to be available. And then I felt like, whoa, this is a lot. So a lesson learned was, how do I create boundaries for myself and create a schedule for a business that I'm growing and how do I follow and stick to it?
yeah. Yeah, boundaries are huge. I talk about them all the time because I mean, similar story, right? As I launched right around COVID, I think right before COVID, and I got caught up in 50, 60 hours a week, just like
Yeah.
what I was doing before. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not what this was supposed to be. So I had to set some boundaries and let some clients know that
Yeah.
phone calls at 10 o'clock at night that wasn't really gonna work for me, so for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
So then what does work-life harmony look like and mean to you now today?
So these days it's having time like end of work day to be with my kids and really trying to honor that always as much as possible, right? Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner and servicing clients, it has to match, right? I want to be able to have, be dedicated to the time they need me and then also when I'm done during my day or specified, specific times of the day or a day when I take time to be with my children that actually happens because
Yeah,
I've been guilty of it, right? You have your phone, you're available, but then you're trying to be present with your kids, and I think that's a no-go. I want to be really present, even if it's a shorter amount of time, but have my phone away. And I think that's super important to show my kids, like, mommy's at work. I work a lot, but I work hard. Let's change that word. I work hard and I work smart, but I also am here for you guys. So my husband and I both talk to our kids about that. The reason we have our life is because we both put in time, we work and we own businesses and that's really important for us, but it's also important to have you guys know that we're equally dedicated to obviously being our family, being together and having moments that are so meaningful and memories we can make. So that's the work-life balance for me is, feeling like I'm keeping up, that I'm not over servicing clients, but really giving them what they deserve and what we've agreed to, and that they feel comfortable and supported, and that my kids feel loved and that I'm there and present with them.
yeah, and you used one word, and I think it's so important as being present with them because you can be with your kids 16 hours a day, but if you aren't really there with them, then that it doesn't count almost.
Right.
Whereas you can have a full life and have a business and have all this stuff going on and spend 2, 3 hours with your kid, but when you are very present and there with them, that feels very different for them, and that means a whole lot more than the long hours without being present. So for sure, that is definitely an important thing.
Mhm.
What would you say is one lesson, maybe the biggest lesson that you've learned along your accounting journey way?
I'm a huge believer in networking and keeping great relationships with people. And it doesn't matter what role you're in. I think honoring and being connected and growing your community and your network of people is so important. Um, yeah, I've opportunities have come up just because of that, right? Be able to be connected, asking questions, just caring about people too. But I'm a big believer in networking and building a community and being someone like knowing that I could call on somebody if I needed to because I've met them, because I've talked with them, because we've had like meaningful conversations as much as possible. And that just is like that's been a really big, I guess, support for me in my career, my life is I've joined different community or different leadership councils, because I want that peer-to-peer networking and someone to bounce ideas off of, whether it happens once a year or like every other day if I needed to, right? You have that. And I think that's such an important part of just any career in my accounting journey was to have somebody I could call and say, "Hey, have you dealt with this?" And not being afraid to ask the questions because I also know that we don't know all the answers because life is life. And, the accounting profession has a lot of different experiences that we all face. And yes, there's rules and there's also experiences that other people have that maybe you've never had.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you shared while you were sharing your journey several times that new opportunities came up from people in your network.
Yep.
So great advice. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsey, so much for being here. This has been
Um,
so much fun. Definitely learn from you and your journey. So thank you so much for being willing to share it.
of course. Thank you for having me, Nicole. It's so great. And yeah, anything you need or anybody in your network, I'm here and would love to connect.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for today's episode. At CPA Moms, we believe women can have a successful career and raise a happy family. Ready to embrace work-life harmony and connect with like-hearted women? Join our CPA Moms Facebook community. Just click the link in the show notes or search CPA Moms on Facebook. We can't wait to welcome you. Until next time, thank you for being here. We see you, we believe in you, and we can't wait to grow with you.